Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted to be joined, as always, by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's DL. How are you, mate?
Good morning, Tommy.
Good morning, Vietnam.
We're having tea.
We're having tea together.
English of you.
We're still in the same room. I'm still baffled by this in some respects.
We never go this early. Well, at least not in the same room.
What a delight.
So it's nice to have tea with you here to talk about some good stuff.
Some movies.
Some mediocre stuff, some good stuff.
I was going to say, you're setting the bar quite for this.
We'll see. How you been, man?
We'll see how good it is. I'm all right. I think you've given me the cold you've had.
I did have a cold when we went and saw our main topic of the week, and I think I still do because we only did that yesterday. And
we both sound like crap, which
yeah,
is great. Good start to the episode.
It's not fun, but it's not COVID, hopefully. So
fingers crossed it's not. We'll get the old tests out.
Yeah,
and
we have time codes, guys, so you can jump to those before. If you don't like hearing about our symptoms,
if you don't hear about the things we've been up to, I mean, who doesn't want to hear about the things?
Not even just that, just all the banter about the cold. But what have you been up to besides going to the movies to see this main event with me?
Besides you giving me your cold?
Yeah, exactly.
I've been up to a couple of quite fun things, actually. I keep remembering things and going, oh, I should really talk about it on the show. Like, I do it without really consciously thinking about it. And then I'm like, oh, maybe Dre'd be interested in talking.
You got to write it down, man. You got to write it down.
I got a couple of good ones. I watched one thing which you tell me what you think. I'll give you the premise and I'll see what you think. But I found it really funny. I've not quite finished it yet. I'm about halfway through. It's a show from a couple of years ago, and it's on Netflix. It's on Disney. It's called Son of Zorn. And it sounds weird to begin with. It kind of is. It's this weird, quirky, like He-Man ripoff, whereby the main character is this guy Zorn. He's actually voiced by Jason Sudeikis, who he was in that Hitmonkey show I was talking about the other day as well. So he's
in a bunch of stuff.
Done a fair amount of.
He's like that
animated
like
stuff.
Small, like almost. He plays a Jewish guy in a bunch of stuff, right? I think he is Jewish. Jason Sudeikis. I'm thinking about a different Jason.
It's Ted Lasso, isn't it?
He's the guy that dated Olivia Wilde for a bit, right?
Good for him.
Yeah.
And this is essentially right. So if you imagine that He-Man character like from the 80s, it was like a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
It's like an animated dude. But if you imagine ripping that out and putting that in the real world, just that cartoon and like everything around it and bringing it to like the now times, bringing it up to date. And he's got like this ex partner who's now engaged to someone else, and he's trying to reconnect with his son, but he's like this battle warrior who just loves killing things and is like a bit wild. It's a fish out of water in suburbia, and it's very fun.
Is it Netflix? Original?
It's Disney. It's a Disney thing, and it was on. I think it was on Fox, and it unfortunately got cancelled after one season. But it's
how
funny,
do you
man.
see? It's crazy that you go like when I see that something's been canceled after one season, it's like an automatic no watch for me.
Well,
unless it's like critically acclaimed.
Well,
like,
interestingly,
crazy degree.
Yeah, I started watching it on one of my flights, and I was like, "Oh, this is great!" So I carried on, and then but without realizing that it had already been cancelled.
Yeah.
So I'm now sort of like 2/3 halfway through, and I'm like,
finish
I might as well just finish it. Like, I like it. It's fun. The characters are all funny. I like the cast, and it's about him trying to reconnect with his son, like I say, who's kind of half Zetherian, which is where he's from. But like, it's just like his legs. Like, you know that old stupid joke when you're a kid, like, oh, which half? Like, if you say like, oh, I'm half English and half Irish. Oh, which half? Yeah. But this takes it very literally. Like, it's just his little legs. It's pretty random.
It's a good slapstick joke.
Yeah. But then like a bunch of his animated characters come into the show at times as well. And like at one point, instead of buying his son a car, he buys him like a death bird, which is like their version of transportation. It's got some good times now. I really quite like it.
Anything else?
I don't know if you'd be into it. I did actually watch as well the Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is the most recent one. Yeah, I watched that recently.
Was it just like Stranger Things 2.5?
Well, yes. Well, yes, but I also really quite enjoyed it. Like, I kind of went in with low expectations. Like, everyone I've seen is like, oh, it's not set in New York. And, like, New York's obviously, like, a massive part of those initial 2 Ghostbusters movies. Yeah. And, like, I feel like people put it down a lot. I mean, it does have a character literally called Podcast, which is a bit on the nose. It's a bit crap. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I liked some of the callbacks. Like, the ending is much like Podcast, very much on the nose. Like, you'd have to watch it. I'm not going to ruin it for you. But, like, I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. Like, the characters are all a little bit sort of stereotypical, but so what? I had fun.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's the main thing.
I would watch that, but I don't think I would have great expectations from it.
And I think that's why I enjoyed it as much as I did. Like, I didn't have expectations going into it. It's fun. Did you see the first episode of Moon Knight this week?
I didn't.
Have you not?
No, it's on the list.
But peek behind the curtains. We're recording this very early for us.
like literally, like we fit.
As in the current episode hasn't even gone out yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. But no, I will watch it. I kind of like when I'm delayed on these things so that I can
fair enough.
watch a couple in a row. And also just like I've just got a lot on, and to be honest, man, Deathloop has been taking up a lot of time. It's so cool. So that's mainly.
You were telling me when we went to watch our main topic yesterday. Your partner was texting you like, "How do I turn this off?" And you're in the middle of a loop.
Yeah, so it harkens back to like old video games, right, where you couldn't save and shit.
Oh yeah,
in certain ways, which is obviously really really cool in a lot of ways because like it makes it more challenging, right? You have to like there's actually a cost for certain things and like making certain decisions. You can't just like it's not like Elder Scrolls where you can just save every millisecond and never have any risk.
Oh yeah.
Which I quite like to a degree, but also is very inconvenient to the modern world and a busy life.
Very inconvenient.
So like you'll be midway through a loop, and like if you don't save and someone turns it off, it resets to like a certain a checkpoint. But these loops you can do a lot in them, so you have to be kind of careful with what you how you play it. One of the cool parts about this game is how you can basically like I'll pull out one example where it's like
please
spoilers to this because I think a lot of people would. I personally wouldn't want someone to like know about the game before they play it. It's kind of fun not knowing and discovering as your character discovers.
Sure,
but I'm going to talk about it, so just know that's coming.
Kind of mild spoilers.
Yeah, basically you're trying to.
How far in are you? Sorry, just for context.
I don't think I'm that far. I'm far enough in though that I know like kind of what the main plot is about. There's obviously a couple twists that I don't know yet, but point being, there's the goal of the game is to assassinate a bunch of people within one day, and the only way
I know the vague premise, like there's a bunch of people that can sort of like herald the end of the world or something, right? And you have to get to them all, or just some of them?
Basically, there's like certain like in order to break the loop, there's like 8 people you have to kill in the same day.
Okay,
and to do that, like it's like you basically have to traverse these 4 areas of the world at different times of day to learn about their whereabouts. It's like a detective story.
Fun.
And you basically have to string all that together, manipulate events so that they're all in places that are convenient enough for you to kill within a day's time. And so one of the like...
So you've got to manipulate the environment as much as...
Yeah, by learning things about why they made certain decisions, because they don't remember the decisions they made.
Only you're the only one who remembers.
There's like 2 characters, and that's the part that I don't understand why.
So I think I was trying to ask you this last week. I was trying to ask if the character in the game remembers the things you remember, as in like the stuff he's done, but I don't think you quite understood what I asked.
So yeah, I didn't know yet. I think now I'm far enough in that I do know.
Okay.
The main character you play, for some reason, has the ability to remember up to a point.
He is Groundhog Day. He is Bill Murray.
He like from the way the game starts, and as you play on, he remembers. But before that, he didn't. So we know that there's a way for him to forget again. We just don't know how it could happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then like to the example of like the gameplay, why it's so cool. Like there's this one where like this one area is very different during the day and afternoon, but when you go at night, one of these guys you're supposed to kill is throwing this massive party, and it's like. You go into this new area. It's like this mansion that is only unlocked if you go at that time of the day.
Interesting.
And it's this fucking massive party with a bunch of people with like wolf masks, and you like stick out like a sore thumb when you enter, and they all try and kill you, right? So the way you approach that to go kill that guy is like the first time you go there, you have to kill literally everyone, and there's like hundreds of people, and it's like really hard. This is like Call of Duty. You get shot like 3 times, you die.
Yeah. Okay.
And once you finally do it, and they all look the same, so you don't know which one is the assassin target, right? Like. So the first time you do it, like I set up a bunch of auto turrets, like hacked them and made them shoot everybody, and like still died like 2 of my 3 times. It was hard.
Brilliant.
But like I'm discovering as I've done that, I go search his mansion, I find new ways of like doing things, and I'm sure that like the next time I go there, I'll be able to like dress up as the DJ or dress up
sure,
and like infiltrate it more slyly, so that you don't like have this massive risk of having like 100 people versus 1. But
it's like it sounds a little bit like I used to play a lot of Hitman growing up. Do you remember Hitman? Did you ever play that?
Yeah.
Sounds a bit like that, where you kind of got to learn the environment and learn what's happening around you, but like way more intense. Like you've got to do all the different guys to kill.
Yeah, and then another example of that, like the coolness of this, is in another area. I found out that 2 of the other people I have to kill were invited to this party and didn't go for various reasons. So obviously, like I'm gonna have to influence those people to go to the party,
so you can get 3
and
at
then
once.
I get 3 in 1. Yeah, like you can see how it's starting to form. It's pretty cool.
Maybe you could at some point convince them all to go.
Well, that's it. And then like
Maybe
now I
that's
have
the
a
dream.
sniper rifle, so I'd approach that like situation way differently with that because
Do you keep your weapons as you?
There's nuance to it. You have to like pick which ones you keep based off of like a currency of kinds. Like, and only those ones will carry through the loops.
Well. This sounds way more interesting. I'm still not very good at shooting games, but I'd give it a go.
It's honestly more stealth than shooting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk next week about a game I've been playing a bit of. I've burnt through what I've been up to already. But I've been playing a game too, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about it because I'd love to know your reactions.
Yeah, let's do it.
This in general just sounds like it's really grasped you in a way other games haven't.
It's really creative, man.
Yeah.
It's really, and like there's just so much choice involved. You can really tackle things in a bunch of different ways.
It's like Groundhog Day meets Hitman.
Yeah, depending on how you like to play.
And it's quite interesting because that Groundhog Day, sorry to interrupt, that Groundhog Day sort of, I don't know, it's almost a trope now, like I'd say. That's been done to death in like TV
games?
and cinema.
Oh.
But not really in video games. Like I don't know many, because I mean, that is the video game trope. Like you die, you respawn at a certain point and you've got to go through certain things.
They've made it more believable. Like,
yeah.
This actually feels like a movie, not a game because of the way they've like manipulated it. Like it very much
not Frank Grillo's boss level from 2021.
No, but you could like adapt this in a really cool way. I think, into a movie. I'm sure somebody.
Well, we just talked about it. Yeah, Frank Grillo's boss level. Like, come on, man. Remember we did a podcast.
Which one?
Frank Grillo's boss
but
level.
It's kind of yes, but it's like cooler than that because it's like less of a mystery. That one.
Interesting. That's so cool though. Like I like the idea of there being multiple targets and you can manipulate them to do different things. Like,
and they all know him. That's the other part. It's like personal. There's like relationships between everyone.
Right. And you're all learning those relationships.
Because he's forgotten them. Yes. It's very cool.
Interesting.
Finished Castlevania season 3.
Oh, that was quick.
Just this morning. Yeah, I think I was farther along than I thought when I told you I was on episode 6. I was actually on episode like 8 or something.
Oh, right, okay.
Which goes to show, like this season was quite boring because I thought I was at the middle and I was actually at the end. Not as good as the other ones. The animation wasn't as good. It felt like it's like they got second rate drawers for this one as animators as opposed to the first 2 seasons. Still liked it, but there was a lot of like weird sex stuff. Do you remember that?
Maybe I haven't seen season 3.
I don't think you have because like this season is super weird. I feel like it would be weird enough that you would remember how weird it was. There's all sorts of weird sex stuff. Okay, I don't even want to like tackle it all.
Sounds like it fits your mold perfectly.
I would only want to tackle it if you knew what I was talking about because I couldn't handle the weird stares that like.
I'm sure I could handle it. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's just there's like also like the vampires getting fucked by this random like Japanese dude. That just show up to the castle and you're like, what is going on? And like, just I don't want to spoil it for you, but like they randomly just like approach him in bed and like the dude's like banging him. And the chick is like, it's very, very graphic. At the same time as this other guy's going full, like, I don't know, BDSM with this other vampire. It was this like 2 episodes of full on like softcore porn. I was like, this is not.
How's your partner enjoying this?
Dude, exactly. Like I'm watching this show, which is already nerdy enough, and then like she comes in with this, and she's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, I swear.
You can claim it's for the podcast. You're like, Tommy's making me watch it for the podcast.
I didn't know that it was gonna turn into this weird like I don't know anime porn.
I mean, in like a lot of the books and stuff, vampires are big into weird sex stuff, which isn't going to come through, unfortunately, in our main topic today.
Not necessarily.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure what
I think that for this one, unfortunately, I think that I'm not saying you can't have it. I'm just saying it all happened in like a span of 2 episodes randomly, and it was just like it's like they all got horny when they were writing, and they got to the end of the season. We're like, we need to put some sex stuff in, and I was just like, it just like came out of nowhere. I was like kind of assulted by it all, you know. Anyway,
as long as they weren't been assaulted, that's the main thing.
Yes. Well, one of them. Anyway,
you can feel triggered by it.
I digress.
But that's cool. Like, I mean, it's one of those shows that I feel like maybe had a lull and season 4 might be better. But I will think they've renewed it for season 5.
I'm sure they did. Like, I think it's probably got a cult following. And then I tried
Netflix isn't good with cult followings though. They don't give a shit. They're just like meh.
Yeah, true.
If they don't like it, it's gone.
That is very true, actually. But I mean, Castlevania, like, it's got a big audience.
Yeah, big.
Like, there's a lot of like
even you watched it, like
the ICP. Exactly, the ideal customer profile for it is like probably quite large.
It's getting real nerdy.
Yeah.
Who was it who was saying had I was doing a corporate business plan?
Yeah, and it's like very salesy.
What was that? Yeah, that was one of our podcasts a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about somebody having a corporate sales plan.
Oh, anyway. They had like a mission statement.
Yeah, that was
Batman's
it.
Mission,
Was it
Batman's corporate statement.
It's vengeance. It changes from vengeance to hope.
Yeah, he does convert pretty strongly there.
You got anything else you've been up to?
Faster than Facebook with Meta. Yeah, I mean, I continued to watch like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Gail was watching some organization show on Netflix. It's like literally a show about how people organize houses. I was like,
Oh,
this is
wow.
the most despicable piece of content that I could
But
ever.
that's so her though,
It
right?
it is so her, but I'm wondering like how many more of her are there?
Oh, so many.
Apparently a lot.
Just go on
because
YouTube,
the
there's
show
millions.
can be made on Netflix that has got 2 seasons,
Wow.
renewed for a third.
We
Anyway.
actually watched a thing very briefly the other day, and I managed to get it turned off quite quickly. It was called Is It Cake on Netflix.
Oh, you told me about this.
So terrible. The worst thing I've ever had to endure. And that's including things like maths that my partner watches. And what else did she watch? She's watching last night a thing about selling sunsets. Oh, man, it was so good.
Selling Sunset, at least like it's it's the worst, but it's like real estate. So I'm like, oh, the houses are kind of like if I have to have.
It's nice to see the houses.
The houses are nice, and like while as fake as they are, the real estate agents usually aren't terrible to look at. So I'm like, okay, this is better than people putting.
It's all dudes.
Which one are you watching?
I'm thinking about this. What's the one that's based in Sydney? That's not selling.
Oh no, she was watching that too. Lux Listing.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Awful.
No,
Watched that
I
last night.
hear you. It is all dudes, and it's all like Eastern Suburb schnobs dudes.
Yeah. Selling
But-
Sunset is all the
All the
plastic
hot
LA looking
Hollywood chicks,
Yeah.
But they're all like 40-year-olds and very fake, like everything. But anyway, no, it's the organized shows is definitely worse than Selling Sunset. I'll give you that.
Okay, I'm glad we've ranked these. I know I know
the-
if my partner ever goes into organization shows, it's time to turn.
Yeah,
the
no,
TV
you need
off.
to leave. Then the last thing, The Plain Girl, which Gail was watching. I don't know. It's on Stan. It's like a Stan original. It's about this girl that convinced her boyfriend to commit suicide or something. It was a big story back in like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something.
pretty deep.
And she got it's very fucking fucked up. I don't know why she was watching it, but I had those in the background, and I was trying to convince her to watch Dairy Girls because it looks fucking hilarious.
You're into some weird stuff,
Dude,
man.
Dairy Girls-
You flip flop so
Dairy
like,
Girls
randomly.
looks so funny. It's like this sitcom about a bunch of Irish girls in dairy.
Yeah, I kind
Netflix.
of guessed that, like
It's
from the
so
title.
it looks so funny. I like the trailer. I was like, I'm in. I want to watch this.
I'll watch the trailer later.
It looks like the
come back to
In-Betweeners,
you.
but for Irish girls.
Okay, all right. I mean, you're selling it to me in that respect.
That's
The
pretty
In-Betweeners
good.
is
Like
an
that's
all-timer.
you would watch that.
The In-Betweeners is an all-timer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It looks like it has
All
that
right,
kind of potential.
all right. I'll withhold judgment until you come back to me next week and tell me it's crap.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Moon Knight, I mentioned before. Have you heard, by the way, moving swiftly along from your weird,
I had a bunch of
your
shit
weird
this week,
TV
yeah.
list? Did you hear that revision on last week? I said that Moon Knight might not be in the MCU. It's been confirmed that it apparently is.
I told you.
You did. All right. Producer Grant Curtis confirmed that I was, of course, wrong. But I think it's more the point.
Tradition.
Yeah, I think it's more the point they moved away from just doing it in New York. Because every, and we're going to talk about this later, every MCU or every superhero movie seems to be in New
Yeah,
York.
it's true. It's like, fuck, New York must never get a break.
Like,
Can you imagine just
You
going to
move a
work
suburb.
every day and some shit's happening? All the time, dude.
Hulk just smashes your
Yeah,
car and you're
it's
like, oh,
dude,
man.
There's never peace.
Yeah,
Like,
you can never get insurance for
yeah,
anything.
like it'd be like earthquake insurance in California. You pay like your entire fucking life savings. Also, it's just like surely they'd like these plots would run into each other. Like you'd have like
Wow.
Morbius flying around like a bat, Spider-Man like trying to take out Doctor Strange. You'd be like, hey guys, wait, we're in each other's sets. Like, like it's too much. I was thinking
Brilliant.
that. Like, what about Ohio? Don't they
just
need a
pick
superhero?
a random spot.
Dude,
Well, actually,
Detroit is the crime rate is absurd. They need a superhero.
well, that's maybe where the Batman's
Get there, yeah, dude.
Well, you know what's funny, actually? I was going to mention in Ghostbusters Afterlife, I said that it's not set in New York. I really like that about it. Like, it was set in this, like, kind of, like, hick town in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, and it was, like, it was all basically like a farming community and stuff.
Yeah,
and I was
fair.
like, I actually really like that. For once, I'm not just staring at New York, or, like,
so
a
true.
version of New York. But, yeah, it's actually set in London, Moon Knight, which I enjoyed a lot. And it's very, I mean, his British accent, you might find, it's not the best, but it's passable. It's better than some we've listened to
Is
on
it
this
better than
podcast.
Benedict Arnold or Benedict
Cumberbatch's
Cumberbatch's
New York.
American accent?
Probably.
Probably. It's
Not a lot's
strong.
worse than that accent. That's a really bad accent.
It's not a strong yes.
Well,
Ugh.
carrying on then, did you hear this week that the Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon has finally been given a release
Is
date?
it
for
August
HBO
8th?
Max? It is August 21st.
21st.
Now, what I want to know from you is,
Yeah.
on a scale of Jaime Lannister's meh to incest with Cersei, how pumped are you for this?
The things I do for love.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's weird, and I'm spoiling what we talked about today, or what we will talk about today. After seeing what's his name, Matt Smith in Morbius,
He's a good actor.
I'm kind of intrigued, to say the least. And like, there's a couple other guys that are good actors, and it like, obviously, it's going to come down to the writing.
Yeah, of course.
But like, I'm excited.
Well, it's interesting this one because it doesn't have any books really to go off in terms of the full big broad structure and how it plays out in terms of the story. So it's completely written by pretty much whoever the writers for the show
There's like
is.
some content that like there's definitely content they can draw
Yeah, they
from.
can
There's
pull
lore.
from. Yeah, there's pull from
There's
the
less
lore, but they
dialogue,
can't pull from
though.
the
like they can't take direct. You're right. They can't take direct lines
Yep.
from like very few at least.
So it's interesting, yeah. So you're not quite full incest yet. You're
I'm not full incest because here's the deal. Like,
that was a weird way of saying
A, that's disgusting. B, because it's like I'm having a hard time understanding how they're gonna like. The whole cool part about Game of Thrones was like there was always this political intrigue, but there was always this overarching thing that everyone that was reading it or watching it knew mattered, but no one else did except for a few small characters, and you knew it was building towards.
It's a bit like climate change.
Yeah, like true. What is this going to be building towards?
Yeah. Oh well,
You know?
I suppose the doom of Valyria.
No, because it's after that.
Oh,
so
really?
Like it could be talking. It would be giving cool things about that. That would be that'd be one thing where it'd be interesting. Like because you want world around this family that's infighting because it's going to be about the infighting. I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
There's a big civil war, and I think that's what this is going to be about. But maybe it will start leading to things that like you would hope that it would seed stuff about the prophecies that would lead to like Daenerys or Jon or even Rhaegar. Like if they do stuff like that and expand the world a bit, like I think it'll be really, really cool because it'll be a good opportunity. If they just make it like too small, it's kind of like, well, what are we building towards other than just they're cool dragons and they're fighting each other? There needs to be more at stake than just that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just because like dragons are just like a cheat code, right?
Yes.
I feel like the more they lean into that, like the show did, the less about the political intrigue it's going to be. So I'm hoping they take a bit of a back, as cool as they would be to see, and everyone wants to see dragons, right? Everyone wants that. But I hope they take a bit of a backseat in this.
Well, it gives them an opportunity to explore like all these other parts of the political intrigue because there is a shit ton that they didn't really talk about in the show because it's all south. Like the High Towers, like they're very famous in the books, but you don't hear anything about them in the show. And this would be a good time to build on that. Anyway,
Do you think we should do an episode on that? An episode on the original Game of Thrones, at least one. Like maybe do season one. Maybe do season 1 or something before we start this show. Maybe do the last season.
Yuck. I'm open to it. I'd almost be down to do like an episode where it's like, what could this be about? And like, but that could be.
See, I don't know enough about it. Like that would just be you talking at me for an hour.
True. Which I do anyway. So he doesn't want to do that on air as well. Do that anyway. No, fair enough. But I just think like season 1, it's so good. Like, what are you going to talk about? Like, what are you going to? I thought season 1 was one of the best adaptions.
Yeah, absolutely. You could be critiquing how against how it ends up. Like I think the reason I like season 1 is said this so many times is the budgetary constraints. That's why I like it. Yeah. So maybe I don't know. We'll think about that. I'd like to do something Game of Thrones.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed.
All right. Well, have you heard this week? Did you ever watch a show? Did you get this in the States? Now we did, and it was really random because it was commentated over by a British comedian who was in a show called Red Dwarf, which you've probably never heard of, but it's one of my all-time favorite shows.
You've talked about this one a bunch.
I have, but did you watch growing up a show called Takeshi's Castle?
Sounds familiar. Is it a cartoon?
It's a game show. It's like, you know how like game shows in Asia are just like mental.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a bit of a stereotype, but
no, but I mean, like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of like, isn't like the Ninja Warrior originally
It's all right. Imagine Ninja Warrior.
But it's originally like a Japanese show that's crazier.
I think it might.
Something like
I'm not
that.
going to guess.
I think they stole it.
It's from a part of Asia, right? It's imagine Ninja Warrior, but each of the sections of it is split into its own like course, and it's nuts. Like there's random people in there to like throw you out of the game. There's like, so like for example, there is one part of it where if you imagine just like a row of doors with a row of doors behind it, with a row of doors behind it, with a row of doors behind it, and you've got to pick the door to run through.
Yeah.
So you either run through like what's essentially like an open door, one might be paper, one is just like a solid wall.
Yeah.
And one's like a net. Yeah. So like, but then like you might get through and you're like, yeah, I'm through. And the next one, there's a dude behind it who's trying to like either speed you up or throw you out of the game. It's stuff like that. And it's hilarious. I think I've seen one person win it in my entire life.
So wait, how do we get on this topic?
Well, I'm about to say this.
I do know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But where are we going?
This fantastic show it's been reported by The Independent that Amazon Prime is going to bring it back. Now, this was a pivotal show for me growing up. Like it was amazing. Like it made me want to do martial arts as a kid.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got nothing to do with martial arts, but for some reason, it made me want that made me want to do that. And I would love to see an updated version of this. Like, how do you bring this to like 2022? It was quite problematic.
I was gonna say a lot of like you will not sue me forms. Waiver.
yeah.
Waiver all rights to sue forms.
100%. I'm excited for that, man. Like, I just clearly waxed lyrical about it for like 5 minutes.
I'd be keen to watch it.
It's a very fun show, and like the closing of it is you get like these little like go-kart things. If you get to the final, there's no promise that anyone out of the 100 contestants get to the final. You get these little go-kart things, and there's like, say there's 5 of you. They put the same amount of the enemy guards against you, and you drive around, and you have to, with a water pistol, shoot their little paper, like they've got like a little paper circle on top of their go-kart, and you've got to shoot theirs. So it's just you driving and shooting, but on their side, they've got one person driving and one person shooting with a more high-powered water gun. So there's just no way of winning. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I've seen one person win it, like I say. It's brilliant. It's so much fun.
No, it sounds fun. It sounds like something you'd like wake up at 2 a.m. in the 90s and it would just be on television somewhere.
It's the type of nonsense that we don't get on TV anymore, and I miss. Yeah. I miss a lot.
Did you hear that Jim Carrey may retire from acting after Sonic?
I did hear about this.
Which is just a weird one to end on, mate.
It's a weird one to end on, but at the same time, I feel like he's just a bit like over Hollywood.
Yeah, probably.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Just like, fuck this.
Yeah, maybe Sonic 2 drove him to retire.
I don't think so. He was really keen to come back for a second one after the first one.
And then Will Smith also is retiring from the Academy just after his little escapade there.
We do have a bit of correspondence about that later in the show, so maybe we'll hold off talking.
Yeah, we can. I just noted like, okay, like fair enough, like. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
Well, he wins his Oscar and then like mic drops. I feel like that's a good way to go out.
That is, I guess.
Who wins that fight? By the way, you put Chris Rock and Will Smith in an octagon. UFC.
I think pretty obviously Will Smith, but
you say that, Chris Rock, right?
Chris Rock is everywhere right now. He's in a bunch of movies.
Well, it's
weird.
I feel like he'd just be scrappy.
He would be, but Will Smith would beat his ass for sure.
He's from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Of course he would. Did you also hear this week that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series apparently has been pushed 2 whole days? But
they're giving us 2 episodes.
We're getting 2 episodes.
Yeah, I did see that.
I've been quite excited for that. I wonder if that. So the last time that happened was WandaVision, and that was because the first episode was weird. Do you think it's going to be a similar thing where they're like, oh, this first episode might put a few people off. Let's give them 2 at once. It could be. I mean, like, that's the only thing.
Well, why was it pushed?
Well, that's a great question. But I
guess that might be
everything's coming out on a Wednesday at the moment on Disney. So I wonder if they're pushing it to Fridays for this so more people are likely to get into it.
Yeah, I think it's more just like it's probably like a really intro episode and they want to like create some fever.
Okay.
Some hype.
Keep people hyped for it. Yeah, that's fair enough, actually, because, I mean, he does need a bit of a reintroduction.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen this version of him in a long time.
Yeah, it'll probably be a slow first episode. And they're like, we don't want to we want some bang.
With hello there.
Yeah.
It's just him saying that like the whole time. Hello there. Waving his hand. These are not the droids you're looking for. I love old Alex Guinness. Well, if you guys have heard anything we haven't talked about this week, please hit us up at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or the podcastassemble@gmail.com. We love when we get news from people. We have one, I think, in our correspondence coming up later on, along with a bit of Oscar talk. So before we move on, final bit of news for the week. Did you hear this week that Michael Bay's Ambulance is out? The critics are seeing it, and they are loving it.
You heard it from me first, boys.
It bafflingly has 74% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which is like not a strong rating, but for a Michael Bay movie, yes.
It's about 2 dudes in an ambulance. Like come on, trying to rob a bank.
This movie was like one of the ones I listed, and I think I'm most excited because I honestly couldn't find anything else. But I had a feeling, I was like, Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't do a Michael Bay movie unless it's like somewhat good script.
Jake Gyllenhaal's really like come about in the last 5 to 10-ish years. Like, he's really selective over his scripts. So
that's my point.
This must be big.
Yeah, that's my point.
I'm genuinely, we saw the trailer for this before the movie we went to see for the podcast. And I was like, all right.
It's intense.
Yeah.
There's a lot there in that trailer. It's a very long trailer.
I guess it shows that they're both former army soldiers and now they're sort of doing ops to, well, they're robbing banks basically, right?
Yeah. I feel like the trailer was so long that I do know exactly all the stuff that happens.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's just going to be more about like when and how.
It's classic, like, well, not even Michael Bay, but classic movie trailers nowadays. Like, I just know exactly what's going to happen in this movie.
Yeah.
But like, speaking of movies with an absolutely exceptional, by the sounds of it, critical reception, do you want to preface our main topic for today? And we'll get into that.
Exceptional critic. I don't know about that, but
well, put it this way: comparatively, this is exceptional.
Yeah, today we're talking about Morbius because why, Tommy? I guess because you make me do.
I made you do
terrible things. Terrible things.
You know what? The sad thing about this is, and I don't want to go too far ahead of ourselves,
yeah.
but like, it wasn't terrible enough that I was like, I can really rip this to pieces, and it obviously wasn't good. So it's just sort of in that middle ground where I'm like,
this could be our new rating system.
It could easily be.
Yeah.
Well, actually, funnily enough, when we get to that, I do have a rating system just for this movie for you. Okay. Just for this one. We're putting Aquaman aside for the day. But do you want to give me a stupid plot summary before we get into it?
Yeah. Morbius. So, stupid plot summary. Marvelized Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde if it was a 90s Marvel movie, and Dr. Jekyll's best mate had a serious Napoleon complex.
That is very true. I like that.
You
like that a lot.
I don't know how funny it is, but it's accurate.
I think I didn't connect the dots with the complexes, so I like what you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't even know if it's Napoleon complex, but he's got something wrong. He breaks bad fast.
Yeah,
very fast. Anyway, let's hear yours.
I could tell you mine. I really struggled to actually find anything for this. So what I did was I went on Letterboxd, which is a movie. People probably know this, but it's a movie review site, and I just picked the very first one, which is a review by Tyler, who gives it 1 star and says, Jared Leto is like King Midas, except everything he touches turns to shit.
See, I don't think that's entirely fair. I get like maybe
me neither. I just loved that it was the first one.
It is funny, but like because he does like do, and we'll talk about this I guess in a bit when we get to like performances. He does do great performances, but the guy can't do anything like remotely middle ground.
No,
it's either like extremely out there or extremely cheesy and bad.
I feel like if it's not a serious movie, he just doesn't know how to handle himself.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Look, before we get into that, then why don't you guess to me the IMDb score for this? Considering that was a Letterboxd review.
4.8.
Very good. It's 4.9.
Wow.
I thought it was going to be way lower.
Wow.
Well, you're going to be very interested. When
IMDb never really ever gets to like the 2s unless it's like a very famously bad movie.
Yeah, someone always likes it. What do you reckon the Rotten Tomatoes score is?
Like 20%.
16%.
Yeah.
1/6.
Because like the critics would just destroy this movie.
They pretty much did. Yeah. And Metacritic finally, what do you reckon?
24.
It's 37. So that's actually higher than I expected.
Oh, yeah.
Metacritic, you said this last week. I just don't know where to go with it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to guess.
I'd love to see 100% on Metacritic what that would look like. Well, of course it doesn't. But
there's always some dickhead, right? No, this is terrible.
There's always one. Well, the director of this was Daniel Espinosa, who is known for Joe Safehouse with Ryan Reynolds and Denzel Washington. It's from about late 2000.
Does it have Jodie Foster?
No. It's like I say, it's Ryan Reynolds and Denzel, and essentially, I think Denzel is a prisoner, and then the safe house he's in gets attacked, and Ryan Reynolds has to get him out.
I don't know. I think I do vaguely remember that, but I'm also mixing it up with another movie with Jodie Foster.
Okay, it's fine.
Where it's like Safe Room.
Oh, safe room, safe room, yeah. Not quite the same, close though.
I don't know.
Similar wording. I like what you did there.
No, it's my brain.
And also known for Life. Did you see that one? I think
Life was Ryan Reynolds as well.
It was Jake Gyllenhaal too, I think.
I didn't see it because I heard it got bad reviews.
Oh, because I quite liked the look of it when I saw the trailer.
Same, but then I saw like a 36 on Rotten. I was like, ooh.
Oh, is it that bad?
I don't know. It wasn't great.
Well, it makes sense considering this movie. But anyway, this stars Jared Leto as the titular Dr. Michelangelo Morbioso. It's got Matt Smith. It's got Adriana Arjona. Jared Harris is in this for some reason. Poor guy.
Thank God.
Tyrese Gibson is also in this for I'm not entirely sure what reason. But last week we talked about goofy IMDb pictures, and we decided we were going to give Mark Casimir Dinovitz Jr. his leave. He's won 4 or 5 in a row now.
Yeah, we needed him to retire.
So I had to pick 2 from this movie to share with you. Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. It was pretty fucking hard.
Meaning that most people actually know what they're doing?
No. I just think there were a lot of bad IMDb pictures in this movie.
Okay.
So I shared with you 2. The first one is a guy. Let me just find his name. I've lost him.
This is not an IMDb.
The first one is Barry Ed, and he is newspaper vendor, and he has got a totally Vikings vibe going on in this picture.
This is just like his only thing he's ever been in.
Yeah.
But the next one, I'm sorry, like it's not even a debate.
Yeah, let's talk about the second one. Now, the second one is Adam Darlington. Oh, if I told you that his role in this movie was NY homeless man,
I wouldn't get that from this picture. He doesn't look homeless. He looks like the Snapchat that he's sending.
That's literally what I wrote.
He's sending to a chick that's like, "What you doing?"
Sliding
at 2
into
a.m.
his DMs.
Like,
Yeah.
they're just like, he's not getting a response. Let me
He
tell
ain't
you.
getting no response from this. This is awful.
Yeah,
And this is his IMDb picture
that's ridiculous.
on the film Morbius, which
There's like an open door in the background.
Yeah,
it's like his bathroom.
it's such, like we laugh at some of these pictures regularly, but this is just bad. It's almost like his PR person said, "Oh, have you got any? Can you send me a picture of yourself?"
Yeah, and he
just
literally took
misread.
it after taking his shit.
He
He
literally-
didn't even shut the door yet, and it's like a little selfie. It is a selfie for sure.
So we're saying that Adam Darlington is certainly the winner this week.
Yeah, I mean,
Poor Adam.
I was expecting Jared Leto's IMDb to pick to be the lead singer of Evanescence or something. So that's the fact that his is actually, a nice picture.
Actually, Jared Leto's not a terrible picture. I quite like it.
No, it is. It's actually totally fine, but given everything else in the film,
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that now. Then let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about what happens in this movie. What did you think?
what did I write? I think I was rather flippant. What did I think about? Like, do we just do a normal plot summary?
Let's just talk a bit about the plot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did I like the story? No.
No. What a great start.
Yeah.
No.
Do bats actually devour humans? No.
No, I don't think they do.
Do even
They kinda
vampire
try-
bats like they eat cows by licking them, but it's like a bladed tongue. And
Yeah.
It's like just a little.
They
bit
tried
of
to
blood,
liken them to piranhas in some strange
which
way,
is
didn't
just
they?
not a thing.
No, it's not.
I mean, they could have at least like prefaced it with like, "Oh, he discovered this new bat in the depths of Costa Rica."
Well, they didn't.
But they didn't.
Look, Michelangelo Morbiuso, he's a doctor who wants to cure his, nondescript blood-based
yeah, he
ailment.
attempts to cure an incurable blood disease.
And somehow accidentally becomes a vampire.
Yeah, funded by his childhood
Yes.
friend, trust fund mate,
Trust fund, baby.
who has the same affliction. His name's Milo or Lucius or something. With an extremely risky, highly experimental treatment involving crossing human DNA with bats. You guessed it. It goes wrong.
Who would have guessed?
It doesn't actually work out.
So bad. He even calls it a serum in this. I'm like, stop trying to pretend you're the MCU. This isn't what happens here.
Are serums like singularly in the MCU? What is the serum?
Serum.
What is the serum?
Captain America serum.
Oh,
It
yeah,
turns
true.
He gets all. Well, that's through so much of it. Look, the word I'd use to describe this movie is just disjointed. It just there are so many bits and nothing quite feels right. Like, I feel like they've clearly filmed a lot of this and then gone, oh, maybe we can just change this a bit. Like, I'm not sure. But the performances in this kind of baffle me because I feel like everyone's on cruise control. But then you've got Matt Smith, who is hamming the shit out of this.
Yeah, he's doing his best.
He's so good in this.
I think that like everyone's on cruise control as a result of this movie having why do I care? I just didn't understand why I was supposed to care. It was just like there was no overarching thing to care about.
No.
Other than I guess like Jared Leto, but like
Jared Leto was like this sort of stoic,
Yeah.
kind of like wannabe do-gooder who just I don't understand his I understand his motivations, but like if you know you have to go into international waters to test this new thing on yourself, it's probably not going to work. So like just come on, dude.
yeah. Well, I just like the vampire part wasn't even cool.
No.
So it's like when that's not cool, and also I'm not really caring about the story because it doesn't really tie into anything else, and it's just this random dude.
Well, we'll talk about that.
It's like, why do I care about this doctor? And yeah, he was aight, but there was really no stakes for me. So it was like I just
stakes. I like we did that.
I didn't care.
There literally weren't any stakes in this. I would have loved him to just get staked through the heart.
I didn't love it,
Even
but,
as a joke. I actually really feel like when this was sort of being made, Matt Smith, I mentioned him as probably the best part of the movie. I feel like he realized this was a bit of a dud.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you know what? I'm going to have a ton of fun with this.
You could tell he was having fun. Honestly, even Jared Leto wasn't terrible acting. Like there was a couple bad lines, but even the dialogue wasn't bad. It's just like didn't really matter. Nothing mattered. It didn't really have any weight to it. And Jared Harris was good, and thank God he was in it because his scenes were like actually watchable. And
Yeah, Jared Harris is great.
makes
He's
me-
a lovely actor.
Jared Harris, I need to basically watch anything else he's in because I've seen him in Chernobyl now, and even this, I was like, man,
He's
every
good.
scene you and you steal the scene.
One thing I did write down was that, like Tyrese Gibson.
I forgot he was
Why
in
does
this.
he keep getting roles in Hollywood?
I
Like
forgot
he's
he
a
was in
blank
this.
slate.
He's in Fast because of Fast and the Furious,
Yeah, I get it, but he's not good in that either.
but like it attracts people.
That's true.
Like I'm giving you the answer. It may not be the answer you want to hear.
That's interesting though. Like, you think you think he is a draw in Hollywood?
I think that like for certain dumb viewers.
So you're gonna go with that. This tried to get the dumb viewership in.
Yes.
Wow.
Don't you think?
Maybe they were just like,
is that insulting to people? I
don't know.
Not dumb, but just like, you know, like, look, I think my partner is a dumb viewer. She's a great person, but her movie taste tailors to the like unsophisticated. Like, I just think that
brutal.
I just think that there are people that like that.
We're going for lunch after this. I'm going to tell you said that.
Please do. There's people that like to get out, like don't like to think when they're getting their entertainment, and that's what like that guy's movies do. And like, I'm not of that ilk.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've written here. Right, I feel like this is very much a early 2000s script for a movie.
That's what I'm
for the people who don't think and go and see comic book movies because
it felt like a pre-MCU Marvel movie.
It really did. It felt like none of the last 20 years has happened. You know, like even Spider-Man 2001 was better than this. Like significantly better than this.
Yeah.
One thing I did put was when I was talking about the performances, that the humor in this, and there were times when I turned to you in the cinema and I was like, Why are they quipping? Like, it was out of place.
Well, by they, you mean that one guy.
Yeah, the one guy.
It was literally one cop.
FBI agent Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And his jokes were just totally inconsistent with the scenes that were in.
Yeah, and it was like consistent. Like, well, that was the one part where like for a vampire movie, this wasn't scary at all.
What?
It should have been scary. Like, it's a vampire movie.
Well, let's talk about action then for a second, because I think that sort of flips into that. I genuinely thought the first scene on the boat. Now that's actually direct from the comics. Like they do go into international waters to try this new serum on himself, whatever you want to call it. And I actually quite liked that first scene when he first turned and he was just pure aggression and he couldn't control himself.
Yeah,
and it's in the trailer, like you can see it. He goes around the ship and he destroys all of the mercenaries.
Yeah, that one reminded me of Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, like the first time.
Sure,
the first Doc Ock scene.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I feel like that did a good job. For the main reason I feel like that did a good job was because you didn't see a lot of the vampire. It was like creeping horror. It was like in the background. But then they show him straight away.
But that was like pretty much it though. Like, that's the only bit of that you got.
That's what I'm saying.
It was like a big smoky CGI orgy fest.
Yeah, and that was my problem with this. Like, whenever the vampires were doing something on screen, anything on screen, it was just like big purple blur.
It was purple.
What's happening with
wearing
the purple
a purple
blurs?
jacket or something?
Do you reckon the purple was because of his jacket, or do you reckon it was because he wasn't drinking human blood?
I think it was because of his jacket.
Okay. What do you think about?
I think his lining was purple.
This sort of links into the pacing. Then, what did you think of the pacing, like of the movie? Like, this is where I thought Disjointed came up quite well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to say the pacing wasn't like, I was just bored. There was nothing really wrong with it.
Yeah,
I was just bored.
That's sad, isn't it?
I don't have any like things special to say. I was just like, when is this gonna be over?
It's so hard. Yeah, 'cause I almost said to you when we started this, do you want to just go full spoilers straight away? But like, I kind of like the idea of holding out, because there's a couple of bits we could talk about when we get to spoilers. But
it would have been nice for it to be scarier and like actually the dynamics of being a vampire be explored and because like that didn't really come up till the end and it wasn't even explained, and we'll talk about it in the spoilers section, but like none of that was real. All that they talked about was like, okay, you have a thirst for blood. It's hard to like deal with. Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit more about that in spoilers, because I do have a couple of points that, I mean, leaning off what you're saying there, even building off it, like I feel they could have lent way more into the experience of being a vampire and being like pretty much the only one there. You know, like there was more they could have done with that. So you're right. You're very right in that respect. In terms of the CGI, then we were touching on it a second ago. What the hell was this? I don't know. The smoky 90s Harry Potter Death Eaters were better than what we got. It's like...
I don't think they were 90s, man.
Well,
they were 2000s.
Whatever, 10 years, 20 years ago, it's better.
15 years ago. Yeah, it's true. I feel like it was just that, like, it's a Sony thing, right? Like, you've seen Venom. Yeah. You know the bit at the end where the two Venoms are just, like, mashing into each other? And I know they're symbiotes. I'm obviously being facetious.
That's what they
When they're, like, slamming into each other, and then you see the heads, like, poke out, and it's Tom Hardy again. That's what this was. It was just, what am I watching?
Yeah, and I guess, like, there's not, like, no one likes that. I don't know why they keep doing it. But there's nothing else to really say about it. What I did find interesting, though, was, at least in my opinion, the facial morphing.
Yeah,
what did you think about that? Because I have mixed feelings about that. Like, obviously, no one likes these smoke battles that go on for 20 minutes. No. They're all CGI based, super loud and annoying.
Well, it was very fairly technically well done. Like, I liked it. I thought when they were doing subtle changes, it was good. Like the bit where his ear became like a bat ear and it went all sonar.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, like that's kind of interesting. Like that, it's interesting that that's how they're portraying this. Like, it's a visual representation of him being able to use his bat powers in a different way. His bat powers.
What about like how their faces got all like morphed when they were? Well, that's the part I didn't really understand. Did they control it, or was it just when they were like losing control? But you know what I mean, when they were basically showing
in the
they were
middle.
a vampire.
Yeah, they didn't really explain that. It was somewhere in the middle because I think for the Morbius character who was he wasn't drinking human blood.
It would come out more.
It was harder for him to control, so he
Yeah.
couldn't quite do it. And when he did drink human blood, I think he controlled it better. I think that's kind of how they were angling it because he's trying not to drink the human blood. And I wonder if the way that sort of escalates, if they ever do a sequel, which fuck I hope they don't, becomes the fact that he just kills bad guys.
I thought that it was interesting the way they could use it to like use comedy in the scene or like intimidate characters.
Yeah, okay.
But I also like vampires. I was gonna say Castlevania. Vampires from like Castlevania and The Witcher, where it's more subtle.
Yeah, big time.
And they could like blend into society, and like there's all sorts of lore about them, and like it's not like so obvious that they are ones because their face turns into like this cartoony.
Yeah, well, the Morbius,
like sideshow
one,
act.
the Morbius one very much looks like the comic book Morbius, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that.
I guess my point. I kind of feel like it'd be cooler if it was more subtle and they could blend in.
Absolutely.
And, like, so I hope that's what they do in Blade and Marvel because it doesn't seem like this will be a part of
Blade is a daywalker.
The MCU.
Blade is a daywalker. It's not, but this is nowhere near the MCU. We're going to talk about that at the very end. One thing I mentioned when I was talking about Moon Knight was this is once again set in New York. Like I wanted to talk a bit about the world building and the cinematography, but it's just another thing in New York. Like, how is he not bumping into everything else? Like, the only exception to this actually is Venom.
Yeah.
Other than your Moon Knight,
San Francisco. Yeah. Where's Moon Knight? London.
What on earth is in London? Like, what on earth?
I don't know.
Like, what is happening? Like, why is everything in New York? And how are these people not spending all their money on insurance?
For all that rent.
For all that rent as well. Yeah.
Much for it.
But the world building. Talking more about that was I just wrote "Stop trying, Sony." Like,
they're not even trying. That's the part that's stupid.
It's
they're not trying. They're like pretending to try by
Yeah.
I can't talk about a lot of it because it's in the post credits. But like the whole like you missed the line because you went to go pee or whatever. Which you missed like the worst part of the movie. Where he's like, I am Venom, and it's in the trailer. It's like, why? Like, you don't even know that guy. Like, there's literally no connection to like what you're just doing that to show people that it's in the same world. And you're not actually making it a better movie by being in the same world.
And there aren't connections other than one throwaway line where they say something about San Francisco, and I was like, oh yeah, that's
it's like we know we're supposed to do this because it makes things better, but we're just doing it. We don't understand it and how to do it to make it better.
Exactly. There's no Kevin Feige. There's no man in the chair. And I was reading, trying to see if Kevin Feige had said anything about this movie, and it's interesting how quiet he has been on the whole subject.
Yeah.
He said a couple of years ago that it sounds like he was trying to distance himself from the Venomverse and the now Morbius. What it's like Sony produces Spider-Man, something, whatever. But they just gave up on the world building. They just kind of went, well, the MCU's done it, so let's just pretend it's similar. Same but different.
Yeah.
You guys are cool. You guys cool with that?
Like the face factor is there, but all the depth isn't. Like that's the
Absolutely. I think in terms of like the movie itself, it like disjointed is the word I would use. The characters don't seem to fit the world. They're not a specific type of vampire that anyone's ever seen before. The humor's awful. The music doesn't fit. There's times when I was leaning up to you and
don't
laughing.
even know. I couldn't name like one bit of music.
Well, there was a bit.
So it's either horrible or like non-existent.
There was a bit when the music was like swelling to like a big point, but there was like a really stupid like CGI bit, and I literally turned to you and laughed, and I was like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
What do I think here?
Oh, totally.
So I'm like, this is just completely out. But do you think there were any tones or themes to this movie at all? Like, because I'm really struggling.
Because like I thought there was gonna be one where it's like limits to like what you care, like opening Pandora's box and like going too far. But like then at the end, I can't say it without spoiling, but like there actually isn't one. I can't think of one.
I can't think of one either. I just put how not to make a superhero movie in 2001.
Yeah. It's almost like enabling. You could talk about like an enablement.
Sure.
Like enabling his mate, but like anyway.
I mean, friendship's a big theme in this. How far you'll go for your friends.
Yeah.
What Yeah, I mean, like, oh
The
God.
limits of friendship.
God, it's
maybe.
bad. Give me your 3 best and 3 worst then, because
The music, the comedy, and the smaller scale was the worst.
the worst.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
you
sorry.
thought
Wait. Yeah, the worst. I think I only did worst. Okay,
Brilliant.
hold on.
I give you
Sorry,
my
worst.
best though.
The CGI, the plot was too small, not interconnected, though. Didn't deserve its own movie. Like, why does this really exist? And then,
It's baffling.
yeah, I put the comedy as in like it just wasn't good.
Yeah.
I just kept trying to make it funny.
Not good at all.
Wasn't
That's actually
like
one
it
of
should.
mine.
If you're gonna make a vampire movie, make a fucking vampire movie. Don't make like a halfway Marvel, halfway like there's vampires, but crappy CGI movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a nonsense. And one thing that's funny about this is you're aware of my dislike of Jared Leto and his movies.
I kind of feel
we haven't talked about him.
I just don't know why I don't like him.
Well, this is so bad.
He just bugs me.
Well, I did make a note that just said I think this specific movie is the one that has tipped me over the edge. I just don't think he's a good actor.
He wasn't bad in it. I just didn't. It just feels like unless he's not playing some extremely like marginalized or like fucked up person, he's not really.
Which he was in the beginning, like when he had his blood disorder. Like that was actually probably the best part of the movie. For him.
To be fair, he was believable.
Yeah,
that's my point. He can only really play these like
that's so
severely
true.
drug addicted or like
so interesting.
Yeah, like what did he play in Dallas Buyers Club? Where it was really good, like a transgender HIV like drug addict.
Yeah,
and I was just like, fuck, dude, like you got this part nailed. Like he kills it.
Yeah,
but he can't play like a normal person.
But when he had the element, whatever it was called, and there was a scene when he walked down the street with Matt Smith, and they were bantering, and it was literally really interesting because everyone was walking so fast by New York, right?
Yeah,
and they were just like
along.
hobbling along, and he stops and he makes this joke and he says, "I'll turn around and hobble back that way." Slowly. And I was like, that's actually pretty funny.
No, like he's good at that kind of stuff. I think him playing like a believable character that has like, a core flaw, like where like I've never seen him do that. It's always there's so much going on and it's all about the physical nature of the performance, not necessarily just his acting.
Fair, actually, yeah, that's probably fair. For my best, I feel like it quite similar to a lot of things we've seen recently. It felt like it was filmed on real sets for a lot of it. Like the scene when in the street and people walking by them, I was like, oh, there's real people in this. It's not just 4 people separated by each other by a lot.
You're really reaching.
Yeah. Matt Smith was great.
I love that there was extras in this movie on the street. It's a really good highlight of the movie. Like, can you guys go watch it?
Please go. The last one was it initially felt like fairly competently made, but quickly devolved.
I did, yeah.
CGI stuff.
I liked Matt Smith and Jared Harris.
Yeah, all right. Jared was good.
Yeah, and it gets me excited. I already
didn't get a lot of playtime though.
Gets me excited, not much. Gets me excited for the House of the Dragon. And then
is he in that? Oh, no, Matt Smith.
No,
sorry,
Matt Smith.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
And then like the fact that this is not in the MCU was one of the best parts for me.
Oh yeah, had to be. Yeah, couldn't be in the MCU. I do have another question about that for you in a moment. Worst, you've said yours. It goes without saying Jared Leto. I'm going to skip that because I don't think it counts. The humor, just bad. We talked about it. It doesn't really fit the tone of the scenes it's in for the most part. Like there's a bit when they're in a crime scene and he's quipping, and there's like a drained of blood body next to you. I'm like, unless you're at this sociopath
should be
level,
shocking.
Yeah,
like shocking.
But you're not anyway.
It almost felt like a CSI scene because of how bad.
Absolutely,
it was.
The CGI was bad, and somehow this was boring. Like, how is this boring?
Just like because there's just like bad CGI. I don't like. It's harder to say why something's boring. It's easier to say why something's fucking good.
Yeah,
there's
bad.
so many ways that it could be boring, right? Yeah, or really, really bad, right? It was just
that was one of my problems. Like everyone's tearing this to pieces, and I'm just like, it's fine. Like it's fine for a 2001 comic book movie. Like it is fine in that respect. Yep. Nothing else. All right. Now, we're not going to have our Aquaman question this week, our usual
That's too bad.
Our usual rating.
The rare time where I would say it was better.
Oh, no. I have one for you, a new one for you this week. Now, the real question is, would you like to see more Bias or less Bias of this character?
I think I would like to see less BS. Less BS.
Even better. Movie, less BS, less of this character. All right, spoilers from here out?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So the movie was, we've talked about it, it's basically really predictable and felt a bit desperate. Smith was the bad guy, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Obviously.
We found out his best mate kind of takes the serum after being told not to because, Michael Morbius knows the side effects, which are like naturally wanting to kill and hunt.
He's gonna become a vampire.
Yeah, and
gonna become a Dracula.
He can't because he's gonna die. He's like, "Fuck you! You don't get to decide." And I funded this research, and he takes it anyway. And so Morbius gets blamed for a bunch of vampire killings that are actually kind of Matt Smith while he breaks bad.
Yeah,
every bully that bullies him, he doesn't just fight back. He fucking kills them and drains their blood, and like full on just
murks everyone.
Yeah, murks. Like it was like at first it was believable.
Well,
but then he breaks bad like very, very quickly and kills like 8 cops randomly for no reason, and you're just like, what? Okay, you're taking this too far.
Morbius is essentially trying not to murder people, right? He's trying to be the good guy and just drink fake blood that he's created in this universe. Whereas Matt Smith is just like, let's murk all these guys.
We've been fucking dicked on our whole lives. Time to like, we're different now.
Yeah, like that didn't make sense to me.
Which maybe like you could get there in the end, but like he got there way too quickly.
Yeah, and he murdered Jared Harris, and I was like, that guy's literally taking care of you.
It just feels like that should have been more like a crime of tragic passion if you were going to do that, rather than like
Definitely
you're going to die now, which is what they made it.
I think one thing I wrote about this was that, you know, the difference between this and even a Venom, like Venom's the same, right? It's dull, it's a big CGI mess, but at least Venom has like Tom Hardy, who's charismatic and can really carry it. Like all the nonsense and the stuff he's coming out his mouth, you're like, oh yeah, like I get it. He's clearly run with this. Whereas Leto just doesn't have that charisma.
No. And the interactions between like Venom and himself are like somewhat funny sometimes. Like it's very it's a novel dynamic. Like there's not a lot of like movies that I think have done that well.
Yeah.
Which is like basically having inner monologues be voiced.
Speaking of
like Dune, pretty much. That's what Venom is, honestly.
Yeah, really is. Speaking of that Matt Smith character, like obviously, you know, he's probably my favorite bit of the whole movie. But you mentioned it when we were talking non-spoilers ish. I thought there was a big missed opportunity in this around their best friends and potentially the Matt Smith character trying to coerce Jared Leto's Michelangelo Morbiuso into being, you know, like a vampire, you know, like drinking blood and the subtleties around, you know, him being his best mate and almost manipulating him. There was a storyline there that should.
Where it's like, let's go after bad people.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to...
But he's secretly just killing everyone in the background.
And maybe he's like... And maybe it's like almost like an addiction thing for him. Like, doing the bad people, he sometimes loses control of it and also goes after good.
Yeah.
And it's like Jared Leto kind of pulling him back. It's almost like this drug addiction style storyline.
There's so much more they could have done with these characters.
They didn't do that.
They just literally went, he's a vampire now.
They kind of like literally scratched at it a bit and then just like let it turn into a CGI jerk off fest.
Yeah, they just went, he's a vampire now, he's just going to kill people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a missed opportunity. That could have given this some serious,
no, you're totally right,
interesting nuance, which it doesn't really have. But like you say, it did culminate in like a 2001 CGI mess between two equally matched vampires. That's one thing that I hate in these movies is that they're equally matched. How do you win? How do you win in that?
Apparently by sacrificing your girlfriend for one last drip of blood.
Yeah.
Is that what happened there? That was another missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I was like, are they going to do this tragic thing where like he, you know, maybe kills his girlfriend because she's on the tanker when he first turns?
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't, or like creates her into one.
Well, he did turn
by
her into
accident,
one.
But it happens at the end in this really convoluted way where like you can't really understand what's happening. It seemed like it happened because he needed a little bit of extra blood to beat him. Is that what was happening?
Well, what actually happened at the end of the movie, how he beat him was he unlocked a new Hadouken and he fired vampire bats at him. He was like, Hadouken!
Yeah, he's like, I did you!
And he was like,
Kamehameha!
Kamehameha had him with vampire bats.
Yeah.
I'm like, for a start, where the hell did these all actually come from?
Nah, it's absurd.
It was so odd.
It's absurd.
Overall. And I was just like, unlocking new moves, great, but I just didn't like it. So you mentioned the Martine character becomes a vampire. You get like a flash of her becoming a vampire.
Which doesn't, like, it could have been done in a way that was like interwoven into the story. Instead, it was like this random.
Well, we called moment. All of this. The reason I said this was predictable is every single beat of this movie we called.
Yeah.
An hour before it happened, we were just. I was like, she'll become a vampire. He'll die, and it was just. It's like,
which is okay because like all movies have tropes, right? But it's like how you subvert those tropes while doing them, or how you do it in an interest. It's like the how is important.
Yeah. Okay.
And like they didn't really execute on the how well, as you said with his mate and with her at all. Like to bring gravitas to the story, to give it a little bit of tragic irony, or make you more emotive to the villain. They didn't do that stuff, so it's like a boring movie.
Didn't believe the love angle either. That was so
random. Like she obviously just wanted his dick the whole time. But you're like why? A, and then like B, Like, why are you making all these bad decisions for this guy?
Maybe she was attracted to intelligence.
And Jared Leto, he's still good looking.
Yeah, he's a good looking.
One thing I can give him.
Maybe not when he looked more like a vampire in the beginning when he had the blood illness than he did at the end when he had the weird CGI. I'm like, what is this about?
Well, also, like, can we talk about like what's going on with him, like being all self-righteous? Like, maybe this kind of gets into the post-credit scene, so I can.
No, it's fine. We'll talk about the post-credits if you want.
I guess like him being all self-righteous, like I gotta kill him. And there's 2 serum, like anti-serums. Like he creates this thing that's gonna kill his best friend because he's like, we can't have like if we can't control ourselves, then we shouldn't exist, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like brings 2, like he's gonna kill himself, and then it just never does.
Well,
and then in the end of the movie, he like teams up with another villain.
I wonder if that's trying to set up a sequel whereby he then has to make the choice whether he kills his girlfriend. His love interest.
It would have to like very immediately follow up.
Well, yeah. He's like, me or you? Me or you?
There was enough like room in the movie to include something like that if you cut all these other dumb parts. Yeah. So it's like that's what they should have probably done.
They should have been looking at that. But you mentioned the post credits. Let's touch on them quickly before we wrap up. So there were 2, and they neither really made a lot of sense. So what it implied in the first one was that in Spider-Man No Way Home, when they closed all of the portals in the sky, we talked about this on our Spider-Man No Way Home podcast. Go and listen to it. It's actually a good movie.
Yeah.
When they closed it, what happened was the Vulture Adrian Toomes, who's Michael Keaton, accidentally got swapped universes. Mm-hmm. So he came into the Venom-verse, whatever you want to call it, the Sony something averse. And the next one was that he was trying to form a team with Michael Morbius, even though he's a bad guy.
And Morbius was just really self-righteous like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So, and like doesn't even know who this guy is.
But I guess if he doesn't know he's a bad guy.
But like it's like why would he accept this invitation?
Well, he just Michael Keaton just say something like, "Oh, I guess we could do some good together." So maybe he's thinking.
But it's just like again, only doing this because they think this is what Marvel does.
Oh,
no substance or reality to why this interaction would even.
It's trying to set up a Sinister Six movie that they've been trying to do since.
But they don't need to do that in a post-credits
scene,
or do it in a way that's a little bit more interesting with Venom or something. You know,
I just
because that's an established character, like in their universe. Like I don't know.
Bad.
Yeah.
Not good. Didn't make sense. How Adrian Toomes got a new outfit. He didn't actually in the Spider-Man movies, the Homecoming. He didn't create that Vulture outfit.
All through,
it was created by the guy who's playing the Tinkerer.
The Tinkerer, and they needed all the stuff from the Infinity War.
Yeah, where did all the Chitauri tech come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Makes no sense. It's nonsense. Look, let's do a little bit of trivia before we move on. Happy with a bit of trivia?
I am.
Let's do it. My last one's actually quite fun. I quite like the last one. Liverpool in the UK was used... Sorry, this is trivia, true or false.
Okay.
So you've got to choose true or false. Liverpool in the UK was used as the filming location for the New York scenes. It also doubled as New York in a previous Marvel Cinematic movie, which was Captain America and the First Avenger. Is that true or false?
The First Avenger. Isn't he in DC a lot? In the First Avenger? False.
Well, the New York scenes in the Captain America movie.
I don't remember there being any.
There's definitely one at the end when he's in
town.
town. I can't honestly remember.
now you've convinced me to say true.
It's actually Manchester. Manchester in the UK was used. And I remember, and I said Liverpool trying to throw you. You got thrown by the wrong thing.
Okay.
Because Liverpool was used in the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson for a lot of the Gotham scenes.
Got it.
Which is kind of cool and kind of interesting that they, I mean, it was obviously a lot easier to film over there because the UK don't give a fuck about COVID rules. So they're just like, do what you want. Okay, number 2. Tyrese Gibson was in talks to play a different Marvel character. But actually this time, the Marvel hero Luke Cage, who we got the Netflix show for, which is now on Disney, in a big screen presentation of the character in the late 2000s. This is true, or is this false?
That seems true.
It is true. Yeah. In the comics, in one of the Marvel worlds, Michael Morbius was actually one of the scientists who gave Luke Cage his powers, which is kind of interesting. So that would be an interesting twist, but none of that happened, so that's fine. Something that could have been interesting in this movie wasn't in this movie.
Yep.
Okay, final one. The character Morbius can be glimpsed in a bonus deleted scene from the movie Blade from 1998. Is that true or false?
True.
It is true. You don't know it's Morbius. It's just because the director said that's supposed to be Michael Morbius. But also, they didn't have the rights to use Michael Morbius, so they couldn't put it in. So they just deleted it. Yeah,
it was just him saying it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But the real question is, Would you want to see a crossover between Blade 1998 and this Morbius?
Not this Morbius.
No.
No. It's a bummer though, because it would obviously be a good.
Could have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I wouldn't like to see a crossover with the new Mahershala Ali one either. That wouldn't be good.
What do you mean?
Well, Mahershala, I can't say his name.
Oh, I
Mahershala
thought, so
Ali.
you're saying the old Blade with this one versus like the new.
I'd like
Blade.
to see Mahershala Ali versus Wesley Snipes. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But the new Blade and
Got
this Morbius, wouldn't want to see that either. That
No.
would be fucking terrible. What an awful situation that would be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our sort of rambling discussion on Morbius.
Yeah.
We both had thoughts about that film.
Not a lot, but definitely
Not a lot of thoughts.
solid.
Let's jump into a bit of correspondence. We do have a couple of little bits. I'm going to quickly splint through them for you. So, social media guy Lockie, thank you, social media guy Lockie. He shared with us a trailer which is coming in 2022, and it is a HBO original TV show called We Own This City. I recommend going and watching this trailer. It looks sick. It's essentially like corrupt police agents. I think it's New York. I can't be 100%. Corrupt police agents going around and stealing from drug barons when they had the whole war on drugs. And it's John Bernthal, who's great. He played the Punisher. He was in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, love that guy.
This looks really good. This is like a serious drama. I mean, it's HBO, right? It's going to be phenomenal.
Most HBO stuff is better than what we just watched for today. It's above average.
Everything on HBO is probably better than Aquaman in some way. But yeah, highly recommend going away and watching that trailer. Maybe let us know next week what you think of that. We can come back to it.
Sounds good, man.
Friend of the show, Ollie, messaging as well at Podcast Assemble. That's where you can find us if you want to hit us up. He sent us a bit of news that I was actually going to bring up, but I thought as he messaged it, I'd wait till the end of the show. But no, he let us know that the Nintendo Switch sequel to Breath of the Wild, actually untitled as of yet, the Zelda game.
Yep, it's been
pushed until spring 2023, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, you get it. Those are big games.
I'd rather wait and get a better game.
They always that was never announced as that date, was it? It was just like theorized. I'm pretty sure because when someone was like, "There's a rumor that it's coming out in like 2022," I was like, "Oh, dude, no way! That game's massive. We would too early with COVID going on." But I'm glad.
I'm glad they're pushing it back. Yeah, a lot of games that have
best.
been pushed usually. I mean, I'd rather they don't do the crunch, right? Crunch is just bad for business. It looks terrible on companies. I don't think Nintendo's famous for crunch, though.
No,
I think they just drop things when they're ready.
basically just like Blizzard and Cyberpunks. What do they do? Which one's that?
Oh, yeah, CD Projekt Red.
Dude, those guys are famous for it.
Famous for
Those
it.
two.
Well, the new Witcher game. There's a lot of new news coming out about that, too. Final piece of news. Thank you, everyone, for messaging in. We really do appreciate it. Friend of the show, Luke. We're still on this Batman hype train. People are still asking us about this.
Batman.
He said off the back of the deleted scene,
Yes, that we talked about last week.
which we talked about last week,
Yeah.
he said he really wanted Matt Reeves to hold off on having the Joker in it. What did we think? And he hopes it's not as bad as, ironically speaking, the Jared Leto character.
I did have mixed feelings about it. Like,
Same.
it kind of feels like I'm glad that you had that scene, but it almost feels like something you should have waited to release until after we got our initial real look at the Joker in the second film or the third film or whenever you're going to bring him in.
I think it's too soon.
It kind of ruins the mystique of it, right?
And the vibe, yeah, absolutely.
So I understand that, and I kind of agree.
I'm down with that. I feel like they could just do with giving him a break. I'm glad they went with the Riddler and the Penguin. Falcone's in it now, or was in it. I would have liked them to just give the Joker just a little break. He's in sort of like, I think I saw a stat that he's in 80% of all Batman media from the last 20 years.
I mean, like, what else would you use though? What are like some of Batman's better enemies?
Such a huge rogues guy.
Yeah, so I guess like this, for the sake of argument, putting you on the spot, like I'm trying to remember who else there was, but even the '90s like cartoons, a lot of it is the Joker.
Well, there's a quote from Matt Reeves who would like to do. We talked about the Arnold Schwarzenegger version, Dr. Freeze, which is a bad character in that film, but there's a lot of media, especially the comics, where he's a tragic sort of he's portrayed as this tragic love interest.
It seems so cheesy though.
But if you
cartoony.
could do, but if you think about it, he managed to make the Riddler less cheesy and cartoony. Like if you could make a character who, I don't know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same.
But the Riddler is just a crazy person, right? Like he's not this like supernatural,
not necessarily in the
freezy
comic
guy.
books. Anyway, There's him. There's Poison Ivy. There's so many. There's the Scarecrow who's done really well in the Nolan movies. There's Bane, who could just be a roided up jock again. There's so many. I can't nail them all. Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
He has the biggest rogues gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie actually hinted a lot at Hush, who's a character from quite a recent Batman graphic novel, who is a guy who grew up with Bruce Wayne and is slighted by a number of things. They have very similar upbringings, but Hush obviously isn't a billionaire. But he does this crazy thing whereby he essentially gets plastic surgery to look just like Bruce Wayne and tarnishes his reputation in public. And they made a load of hints at that in the movie. There was even the word Hush on screen at one point. And that would be way cooler if this character, who was clearly a psychopath in prison, could have been something like that rather than just the Joker.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mind that they're including the Joker. I just didn't like the reveal. But I can understand why people are like, well, save it.
In the actual movie, the 2 second nonsense clip.
Yeah.
And I'm with your friend of the show, Luke. But if you guys have seen Michelangelo Morbius, let us know. Let us know what you thought about the movie. We'd love to hear from you. Where can they find us?
They can find us at thepodcastassemble@gmail.com or podcastassemble on Instagram.
Do you want to wrap up the show?
Yeah, I was going to say, shoot us some memes. Tell us what you like to hear about. If you listen to the episode, what you like about it, what you didn't, what you liked about Morbius for correspondence next week. Really, if you have the time, give us a review. Hopefully it's better than my review of this film, which was, I think my first words were, no, I didn't enjoy the story. And, thanks, Lockie, our social media guy. He's going to give us many polls about terrible IMDb photos, which we are full of every week. And I guess to close it out, man, thank you, Tommy. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Dio.
Hated the movie. I think I get to pick next week.
You pick away.
Yeah, I think I'm going to assert my pick, and it's been real.
Tally ho.
Tally ho.